Hey, I'm Heidi. I've been doing a ton of A/B testing for outbound messages and wanted to share with you what I found actually really works. So, most people are testing all of these things: content, subject line, send time, and they are important. But what I found to be the most impactful was actually the sender's voice. Who do you sound like when you're talking to your lead? And how does this help you cut through all the other noise in their inbox? When we broke it down, we found that you had 27% higher conversion if you sound like someone your lead wants to talk to. And this is regardless of the content, subject line, send times, any of that. But how does it work? How do you sound like someone worth talking to? So, what I found was it came down to these three things: capturing interest, finding commonality, and matching their formality. One of the things I found is that when people are doing outreach online, they seem to forget that it's a social interaction. There's a lack of sort of humanizing the situation that a lot of people kind of defer to just because I guess the person isn't sitting right in front of them. So let me give you two examples on how those three things can apply to messaging to two different personas. Okay, so we'll talk about the VP of sales at a digital marketing agency, but also the chief data officer at a pharmaceutical company. And we'll take a look at how these differ. But before I begin, let me set the scene a little bit. Okay, so if we're talking to the VP of sales, let's assume we're at a conference, it's happy hour, it's towards the end of the day. You don't walk up to him and say, "Hey, I'm Heidi, do you want to buy this?" Right? A natural conversation usually sounds something like this: "Hey, I'm Heidi, I like your shirt. What brought you here?" All these things. But for us, it's about how do we encapsulate all of that into an online message that's just sent through text. So let me show you an example of the messaging. And again, I'll let you pause and read it, and I'll just highlight the things that are really important. So, first of all, is greeting them like you know them, right? So, I walk up to Matthew, and I know he's a Matt. I know that's how people call him. The first thing I'm mentioning is something specific and personal. So, the benefit of being online is that we found on his LinkedIn profile that he's into curating art shows. So, of course, I'm going to use that as an opener to kind of open up the conversation and just capture that interest. And then also, I'm going to flatter them a bit, right? In a real life conversation, you're laughing, you're smiling, all of that. And that needs to translate through the messaging that you send. Second thing here is finding commonality, right? So again, because this is online, it's going to be a little bit different. I saw that Matt posted about something about sales, and I'm going to mention that. I'm going to mention that, and then I'm actually going to go further and beyond and talk about how my product is going to help him in doing that. So relating my messaging to something that he said before. And lastly, I'm going to match his formality, right? So because we're not there with Matt, we don't get the benefit of body language and facial expressions and all of that. So because he's a slightly more casual audience, I'm going to throw in some emojis, exclamation marks, and use some everyday casual language just to sound a little bit more social. Now, let me show you a really, really different audience, right? This is the chief data officer at a pharmaceutical company. So we can imagine maybe he's a little bit more serious. Maybe he's a little bit more of a technical expert. How are we going to change our voice to cater to him? Here's the example. So again, I'll let you pause and read if you want to. But with George, it's all about capturing their interest in a different way. So for a subject matter expert, maybe it's about mentioning someone in their network, bringing up conferences that they've been at. So again, we have the power of the internet where we can research these things and be able to put it in a message. So in this case, saw his post about someone that he knows and also a conference that he's been to, something very, very personal. Now, in terms of commonality, we're going to discuss something that is a recent learning or something that he's a subject matter expertise in. So George actually mentioned this data's untapped potential. And when we talk about our product, we're actually going to use that specific line in explaining what our product does. Now, last but not least, matching formality. More serious audience. So in this case, we're going to use full sentences. We're going to drop the emojis and just sound a little bit more like that other person. So again, it's all about bringing color or maybe the lack of color to this particular conversation. So let me conclude here. You will get more conversations if you sound like someone that's worth talking to. And those were the three things to achieve it. Now, all those messages were actually automated. So all the research, the writing, and the sending was done through Rocket Brew. You're welcome to write the messages yourself, but there is also a 7-day free trial if you want to hop onto Rocket Brew and try sending some of these super personalized and relevant messages for your LinkedIn outbound.